Morning everybody from a sunny Perth to my live show. This show of course is to celebrate 200,000 subscribers on the channel. We hit 199,000 last night and I was kind of trying to measure up when we would hit 200,000 and when we would do a live, so we're almost bang on. Okay, we're going to take questions. I'll take any question, but we are going to probably focus on the truck. You may ask questions like, why are you wearing that cap and that t-shirt? You may ask anything, but I'm probably going to field more questions about the truck than general stuff. Patreons, please send your questions now. Now, please. Because what I'm going to do is I've got some announcement stuff, 15 minutes or so, and then let the questions come in from Patreons. And then there's also opportunity for you guys who are not Patreons to contribute to the channel. You can post a question with a payment called, what's it called?
Super Chat.
Super Chat. Now that voice you just heard is Cameron. He's helping me with the broadcast. Super Chat. So if you want to make sure your question is, I respond to your question, there is the way of guaranteeing that is you contribute an amount. It doesn't matter the amount. It's completely up to you, and we will get to your questions. And then the rest of you, try your luck. I'm anticipating quite a few questions, but Patreons first, and then everybody else later. And thank you, Patreons, for making this all possible. All right, that's the formal stuff. What I wanted to ask you, Patreons, you guys, how many of you received, I mean, all of you from $5 up should have received a postcard like this. This was sent out probably 1 year ago. And it's got a very funny message on the back. But only one of you actually reacted to the message. I think it's hysterically funny. So you can message me. Did you find it funny? Because I'm about to do another postcard for you Patreons. And well, anyway, I thought it was very, very funny. In fact, it sums up the channel and it sums up me and my attitude to four-wheel drives, and it's very funny. Anyway, so I'm sure you'll enjoy that. All right. I feel as if I have to make a bit of apologize a little bit for the garage because we're not sponsored by corporates like some channels are, and we've chosen that route. And which means we don't have a big flashy studio. So hopefully the content will make up for it. And but we are actually in the throes right now. I'm lucky enough I've lived now in Perth for 3 years, and I'm lucky enough to be able to say, okay, I can now think about buying a property because I've been renting this property. Because moving continents twice is not very, very good for the old wallet. So we're looking for a place that will have a very large garage or large workshop built into the house, and we can do a proper studio, because I think these work well. We get a great response from live stuff, and I think that being able to do it in a more professional stage is worth the investment, so I want to do that. Okay, all right, I want to talk about the air scoop. Remember the air scoop thing? I was here talking about all of the air coming into the car and that's the fact that the air scoops were the wrong way round. Okay, there's a guy called John Cadogan. He's very Australian. He's very knowledgeable. He's very outspoken, probably because why I quite like the guy. And he said to me, Andrew, not this time, mate, rubbish. And I posted his actually quite funny video. I actually posted a link on my little thing about the air scoops. And see, the thing is that if you don't ask questions, you don't get answers. There's nothing wrong with being proven wrong. In fact, to be proven wrong is good, because you have a concept, you have an idea, and you are brave enough to say, this is my idea, knowing that it was a bit on the edge, out of the box. Okay, the world's great out-of-the-box thinkers are the world's great people, aren't they? They're out-of-the-box thinkers. So this is my little out-of-the-box moment. So I'm looking at airflow and things, and what John Cadogan said made sense, and he presented his argument extremely well. But he didn't get it all right. And I'll give you just what, I'm not saying you're wrong, John. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying keep the laboratory door open. That's what I'm saying. So I made the premise that the area here, so it's my sleeping bag, I went camping. I said that the area here was a low pressure area, and so therefore the air would, and I based it on that, and it's actually not a low pressure area, because if it was a low pressure area, John rightfully pointed out, all the air would be sucked out of the cab through the vents here. Fair enough. But I still maintain that the air pressure here is lower than the air pressure in the bonnet. That's all it has to be for the air to move. So I'm not saying I'm right, okay? I'm saying is it's never as simple as it seems, and one should keep the laboratory door open. But I thank you, John, for that reply. It was very funny and rude in your normal way, which is fine. It was good. It was good. And we had, I mean, a few people, the people that keep the laboratory door firmly closed in their lives said, oh, Andrew, you better, or you must feel very embarrassed about that one. The opposite is true. Bring it on. Tell me I'm talking rubbish. But I do say, don't attack me personally. Attack the idea. Then everybody can learn. Laboratory door open. Okay, so I'd like to keep the discussion going. I would love to have the resources to be able to actually do a test and have a more scientific answer. There's still something in what I was saying. Okay? All right, leave it at that. All right. I've had a few comments on the build that have said, one of them summed it up. He said, wow, rich dude. And I remember years ago, I'd bought a Land Cruiser, one of my 105s, and a friend of mine said, you know, I've just figured out why you keep buying these beautiful four-wheel drives. He said, this is your business machine. So I got a mate who's just bought a CNC cutter. He's got clients coming in and he does cutting and bending of stainless steel and stuff like that for these people that need it for projects and business and things. And he spent about the same as what you spent on your Land Cruiser on his CNC machine. He said, yeah, you know, there's no difference. And he's absolutely right. This is a business machine. The difference between this business machine and most other business machine is that this has character. And I can play with it. And it is part toy. But it's also a business machine. It's required for me to earn a living. Okay, because as you know, most of you, I do this for a living. It's not a hobby. It hasn't been for a hobby for a very, very long time, 20 plus years. Okay, I wanted to also chat about Project Grenadier. I actually sent an email. Project Grenadier, for you, it's an English, I think it's a pharmaceutical or chemical company in the UK, and the owner, mad four-wheel drive nut, mad Land Rover nut, decided, terrible tragedy if the Land Rover Defender vanished from the world, which it has. Let's face it, it has. He would do a replacement for it, which would be more reliable. That's not difficult. More rugged. That's a challenge. More versatile. Very much a challenge. Safer. Not a great challenge. And put it on the market. Now, the cynic in me is saying, do you know how much it costs to not just put a vehicle together and design a vehicle and build a vehicle and find engines and gearboxes? Okay, the enormous cost to that. To actually get it approved, crash testing, safety testing, emissions testing. They spent, Mercedes-Benz United States of America spent $6 million getting this Mercedes-Benz Sprinter into North American market to do all the tests. $6 million. And they had a vehicle range that was complete and ready to ship. And I understand that sales were very, very low. Not because people didn't want them. People really wanted them. Why not? You've got a large van that's extremely economical and it's made by Mercedes-Benz. This is a good recipe. They couldn't make enough of them for, so I believe they're now thinking about doing a new factory or something. I'm not up to speed with that, but the point I'm making is that cost $6 million. That kind of money? Look, I am a bit of a skeptic, but I'm also hopeful. But now here's my question. You're a Land Rover guy, and you are devastated at the loss of the new Defender. The loss of the old Defender and the new Defender is really just a Land Rover Discovery 4. Let's face it, it is. Unless they take out all of that electronics controlling the suspension and everything, and unless they allow one to put smaller wheels on it so you can have larger tyres, it's a Land Rover Discovery 4 in a different body shell. It's exactly the same thing. It doesn't offer anything more. Not one single thing. Maybe a bit better off-road because of the electronics. We don't want electronics. We don't want electronics. And when I say we, collectively, the guys who are doing serious off-road stuff, we don't want electronics. And if you want to control the engine with electronics, we understand that. You will need to control emissions. We're all for it. Not the stuff underneath. So, to me, it's... would you, back to my question, as a Land Rover nut, buy an unknown vehicle from an unknown manufacturer just because it did? Remember, it's not going to look like a Land Rover. It's not a Land Rover. It's a different car made by a different manufacturer. Would you, as a fan of the Land Rover marque, go and buy something that was not a Land Rover just because it potentially performed as well as the old one, if not better? Not that many of you. Some of you would, but not that many of you. I don't think that's very high because it's not a Land Rover. And in Australia here, are we going to... How long is it going to take in Australia? Because in Australia, what cars are used in the Outback for rough stuff? Stuff that's been proven. Finished. End of the day, stuff that's been proven. The stuff that hasn't been proven, you don't see it in the Outback. Very rare. Okay? Stuff that's proven, you see it. So it's going to take time for the Aussies, if they like it, to say, I don't want a Land Rover Cruiser anymore. I'll take this new unknown thing. Are they going to do that? It's going to take time. So if you watch this, the guys at Grenadier, I did send an email. I said, please get hold of me. I'd love to be involved in any way. Just to do a story on how you're going would be fantastic. But I have been a bit cynical, and I'm still a bit cynical. But apparently they broke new ground for a new factory. That's a good sign. Good sign. Okay. All right, where are we going? How are we doing with questions there?
Good. Got quite a few.
Quite a few questions. And from questions from Patreons? Have a look at that.
Questions from Harold.
Okay. All right. I'm going to start getting on to this build here and answer one question that's come up a lot. Very valid question. Andrew, I thought you liked wide tyres, narrow tyres. I thought you liked narrow tyres. Why is not 285, 75, 16? Is that not a wide tyre? Well, yes. Is it wider than I would like? Yes. Here's the problem. To me, I wanted 33s. 31s are too small for this vehicle, wheelbase. They're too small. I need 33s. 33s are also legal on this vehicle in terms of the GVM. Okay? I could go 255, 85, R16. The perfect size for this car, to me. Same diameter as that, this much narrower. Here's the problem. If I lose one of these tyres, I'm up in the Outback somewhere, and I go into a tyre store and say, do you have a 255, 85? They're going to say, what? Nobody uses them. Nobody runs them. In Africa, nobody runs them. Very few manufacturers make it in that size. BF Goodrich, for example, were going to bring them in last July. I think they only came into the country like 6 months late. And now I actually called and said, do you have any in stock? And the answer was no. Do you know when you're going to get in stock? Don't know. People don't take the size seriously. I think it's a fantastic size. I think if a tyre manufacturer actually took that size seriously and invested in it, it would be an incredibly popular size with people driving this kind of vehicle. I don't want wide. I don't think wide helps in very many situations, but in this vehicle, I can't go too narrow or too small. So there's my answer to the tyre question. Okay. So would you like to give us a question from Harold?
Harold from Patron. Mm-hmm. What step-by-step upgrades would you make to a FJ Cruiser?
Oh, the FJ is a fantastic car. You know, I'm not really the right person to answer that question because the FJ, I haven't owned an FJ. I've had 2 occasions to drive them. Both were on dunes, and one was not standard. It's had 33s on it, but it had quite a big lift, and it performed fantastically on the dunes. It was an absolute hoot to drive. And then the second thing was stock standard, and it drove fantastically on the dunes. And so the trouble is with the FJ, space. Space is the big problem with the FJ. I would definitely if you can, take out those back seats, remove them, and remove as much of the trim in the back as you possibly can. Okay, because you've got that almost useless space. Not useless, but there's a lot of, because it's not a big vehicle. People in the back, it's like sitting in a cave, sitting in the back of that car. It's definitely a 2-seater. I would say it's a 2-seater anyway, turn it into a 2-seater, and have lots and lots of, use the interior cleverly. With that seat in the way, you probably already know, it's really strapped for space. And a flat rack, just an absolute flat roof rack. No sides to it, keep it light, keep it convenient. And I like the flat racks because flat racks you can actually, it's easier to get things on and off from the side of a vehicle, and it just makes life a little bit easier. But with the FJ, that's what I would do. But I can't really tell you about specific suspensions because I would have had to own one and drive one for me to be able to really give you good advice on that. I love the car. It's a fantastic fun car to drive. Anything else?
He also asked if you could build the same project in America, what truck would you use instead of the 79?
I would probably go with, I have 2 vehicles in mind. So the question was, what would I drive in the United States? If I was doing this in the US, what base would I put it on? And my inclination is the Dodge Ram 2500. I understand it's a compromise. Everything is a compromise, one way or the other. Dodge Ram 2500, or I would certainly like to experiment with the Jeep Grenadier. I was shown something on the internet the other day. I wish I could remember the name of the product. It was called a Jeep. Oh, I wish I could. The guy's going to kill me. Sent me these pictures, and it's really interesting. He's based out of somewhere in Texas, and he's also got a place in Salt Lake City. It's an extended JK. They've extended the JK by about this much at the back. So yeah, again, compromise. Your departure angles on that car now is not great. Okay, compromise. However, what they've done inside is they've taken the roof off and they've put a troopy-like interior roof-type camping system in the back. Why can't I remember? I've got all these brand names floating around in my head. I wish I could remember the name of it. I can't. But that would definitely be something I would look at. The trouble is with the Jeep and all the Jeeps, their biggest problem is range. Because they don't have a really particularly good payload, you have to upgrade the payload. When you want to upgrade the payload on any of the Jeeps, I'm talking Wrangler base. I'm talking about that, the JK, that body chassis base. I'm not talking about the other Grand Cherokees and other rubbish. I'm talking about the beauty of the Jeep is that it's so easy to modify, and like every vehicle with compromises, that's got compromise, easy to sort. You have to replace the back axle because the standard one is really not good at carrying a load. And then what do you do about this range? Because it's a thirsty engine with a small fuel tank. So that's a big challenge. You've got to carry water fuel to give you the range. But other than that, with some work, I still think that Jeep is the best you've got in America, that range of vehicles, because they're so easy to adapt. So I would, one of those two. If I was going big, 2500 Dodge, smaller, Jeep, maybe the, I don't know if I'd go with the Jeep pickup, maybe, I don't know, I'm not clear yet. But anyway, that's what I would probably do. You might be asking why I'm wearing this t-shirt. Now some of you will recognize the t-shirt from Africa, and we had many requests for, can I buy that t-shirt? Well, actually no, but the answer is now yes. It's not an identical t-shirt to this. Now, what is available, we use Teespring, which is linked to, makes it easier for people worldwide to purchase our merch. And we've designed a Africa build to celebrate the Africa Land Cruiser build. And there are t-shirts and hoodies and works with a new piece of artwork that I put together last week, and I think it's fabulous. Best we've done. I think it's the best we've done. I don't even wear my own merch. I actually might wear that. I like that a lot. We did one for Australia as well. The Australian one, of course, celebrating this build here. So the merchandise is, and you have to right now, what Teespring does is that the most popular ones come to the top of a page automatically. Because it's new, it might be, so scroll down a bit and you will find it. And that's pretty exciting. So I'm going to order one myself. Right, do we have any other questions?
Yes. From Patron, he asked, your last truck had 235/85 R16 and then 265/75 R16. How do they compare?
Very good question. Very, very good question. Very good question. How did they compare? The two 65/75s were better on tarmac, better on, particularly when it rained, better at going around traffic circles. The car was more sure-footed. Off-road, it was, look, the narrow tires, the 235 85s, we did the canning stock on that. That's not an easy route, and it walked it. It absolutely walked it. Troop carriers love the narrow tires. They just seem to. A troop carrier on skinny. Ask troop carriers of Australia. Troop carrier on skinnies is unstoppable. Why do they say it's unstoppable? Well, because so many of the tracks are very, very sandy. And narrow tires, narrow, larger diameter tires work better than larger, wider tires on sand. So I'm guessing, and this is a bit of a guess, there would be an edge on performance in sand with the 285, the 35s, 85s, the higher profile, narrower tire. But they're both the same diameter, almost exactly the same diameter, very, very similar diameter. So there you go. That's, at the end of the day, what would I take of the two? Boy, that's a difficult choice. Actually, the 235 85s. At the end of the day, I would take those in preference by a very narrow margin. All right, more questions.
Everyone's asking the big question, what's going on the back?
Okay, what's going on in the back of this? Oh, right, everybody's asking the big question. What's going on in the back? You know, I have a question. Not for you, but for me. It's more of a rhetorical question. What are you going to put on the back? All right, so I know that doesn't help you. Okay, I've got three things that I have in mind, and I might do two of them. I'm lucky enough to be supported by other companies, or part supported, so it's not a huge layout, because it's product development that they take advantage of. The first one is Norweld make this beautiful tray. They make beautiful canopies. Stunning campers with fridge sliders and beautiful, beautiful. Here's the problem with it. It's not mine. It's the same problem when I went and had a look at the Patriot Camper's Land Cruiser 200. It's not mine. It's just not mine. So what I thought about doing was taking the Norweld camper, pretty much a bare shell. Some of their stuff I'd leave in. I've got to decide what. And then I would have the traditional box on back, well equipped with kitchen, shower, access to camera gear, great battery system, great plumbing system, etc., with a traditional rooftop tent of some kind. I wouldn't use a traditional rooftop tent, I would use the clamshell type, this kind of rooftop tent, something like this, but certainly not one of those, you know, not one. I hate those tents, can't stand them. But that's pretty traditional. There's nothing wow about that. There's not a big wow factor in that. But it would be fun to do, because then I would be able to put my ideas into how a box should work. Keeping all the weight forward and all of that kind of thing, having space thing to work, etc., etc. So that's the one option that I'm considering doing. But that's not the solution. The other solution, I can't really mention name. I don't want to mention names at the moment. There is a camper on the market. I won't mention names because it's not fair. Wouldn't be fair on them, but I will. Anyway, there's a camper on the market that I really, really like, but again, the way they've done the interior fittings, I don't like. It's not efficient use of space. It's not, I don't like it. But the basic shell camper, where the reason why I love that is it's so simple. It's just simple. So that's a camper, and it's this is 1.9, it's 1.8, and it comes over the top by about this much, and it's a pop-up bed, and it's quite plain looking, and again, I would then take a plain one, and then do the interior. And I think the combination of that, and I would do it with the guys at Quick Pitch. I actually sat and spoke with Yucky, the designer. He's a flipping genius. He is. Doesn't know it and doesn't look like a genius. He is a flipping genius when it comes to this kind of stuff. Designing and getting things to work. His engineering, you know, you look at his CAD drawings on Softworks and stuff like that. I think it's called Softworks, his software. Anyway, it's you know, brilliant. So I chatted to him about it, and he was, wow, yes, you know what we could do? And I said, okay, look, it's got one little problem. And he said, oh, well, we make it fold back and we do this and that. Can you do that? Yeah. Is that easy? Not a problem at all. Okay, cool. So he's now getting excited about that. So that's one thing that I'm kind of hoping is what we're going to do. But will that be the final solution? Maybe, but maybe not. There is something that is on the cards, and it's too early to mention it now, but it is a camper that Yaki and I are designing. I've come up with a concept. It's never been done before. Never been done before on planet Earth, my concept. It is completely out of the box thinking. So when I presented it to him, again, he sat there in silence and said, I absolutely love it. Can we do it? And I said, can you do it? I can come up with the ideas, but alone, I can't do this. Not only do I need you to draw it, I need your genius to sort out the issues that are going to come up. We know those issues, those engineering issues that are going to come up. To make it inexpensive, fabulous to use, and it is a unique take on campers designed for the back of pickups. That's what it is. And we're hoping to have the prototype unit ready in approximately 1 year from now. So, and we will. Once we have got some preliminary drawings and we realize that the concept is doable, we will announce it. So those are the three things. Very, very exciting. This last camper thing to me is very exciting. Really, 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 really exciting. So you know as much as I do, because at the moment, all these ideas, they're in the air. They really are. They're in the air. I'm going to just take that off. Right. Any more questions?
So Bernard asks, would you consider a build on a dual ute in the future?
Would I consider a build on a dual ute in the future? Are you? What do you mean by dual ute? Are you?
Assume double cab.
You're talking about a double cab in the future? I'm not sure where you're coming from with the question. I'm doing one now. Would I do another one? Yeah. I'm not quite understanding, I don't think, the reason for your question. But yes. I took this on its first trip yesterday. I went camping. I took it on the beach. Here's the thing. Took it on the beach. First time in four-wheel drive. Boom. Cool. Very exciting. Like a little boy. Let down the tires. Jumped onto the beach. Driving up and down the beach. And a mate of mine's got an 80 series. And I think he was battling. And maybe he wasn't. He didn't say he was. This thing has it had a strange mannerism. I kept thinking that the back wheels were pushing me. It was because of the long wheelbase. It had and you know when you do a U-turn on a beach and it's chewed up. It's a chewed up beach. And I want to do a U-turn. You've got to be very, very careful doing a U-turn on the beach. Don't turn towards the sea when doing a U-turn. The trouble is, of course, you've got a slope, and you want to turn down the slope, because turning up the slope, you're making it 10 times more difficult. The trouble is, if you turn down, you want to do a U-turn on the beach, and you turn towards the sea, you better make sure you make it before you hit the wet, because maybe, unless you've checked it, the wet is slush, okay, and you go down. So I thought, well, it's not that soft. I'm not going to get stuck. I'll get myself out of a predicament. And I remember just swinging the wheel around and hitting the accelerator pedal, expecting to actually, you know what you do, is as you get stuck, as the vehicle slows on sand, you kind of straighten it a bit, and you get a bit more, you straighten it a little bit, and as it's slowing, because your thing's acting as a plow, but you still want to turn because you want to turn. So your wheels are acting as a plow and you're slowing you up, and as they start slowing you up too much, you just straighten it a little bit, get a bit more speed, and then turn and straighten a little bit, and you make your way around doing this. This thing, I went like this, and it went boom around the beach. His cruiser didn't do that. I could see him doing this in the steering wheel, getting really like this, doing this, and getting around, I went straight around. Interesting. Yeah. Anyway, it was nice. It was fun, actually, having it on the beach for the very, very first time. Any other questions?
Yes, I'm going to start doing a few of actual YouTube.
YouTube, okay. All right.
So someone's been asking, how do you get the spare wheel off the back?
All right, this is very temporary. The way you get the spare wheel off the back on this thing is very easy. You undo that and you roll it off. So that is a temporary arrangement for the spare wheel. All right.
Do you have a final idea of what you're going to do with it?
I have a final idea is that one will go permanently on the back, but I'm only going to put one on the back. I don't want to, you see, wheel carriers are very, very heavy, and I'm obsessed with keeping weight off the back of this thing. Okay, we move the wheel back to sort it out. There's no point in putting all this weight back on the back. I'm just going to be back to where I was before, or where I might have been without the stretch. So one spare wheel on the back, and then when I'm on a really long expedition, when I want to take two, I will have a roof rack here, and I'll have one spare on the roof rack. I am worried a little bit about the amount of space I'm going to have up there. It's a question mark that I still have to solve. I want to avoid putting two wheels on the back. Anything else?
What does the car weigh so far?
Don't know. What does the car weigh so far? Don't know. So in fact, I've actually got it in my schedule. Before I do anything else of any major, I want to know what the weight is as is, because when developing the camper and things, I'll know the weight of that, and then I'll be able to have the two figures. But I wanted to kind of get this pretty close to being finished, the first half, before I took it on the weighbridge. But I will take it on the weighbridge. So I don't have a figure yet. And you know what? These figures always scare me because they're always higher than you think. So what I'm actually going to be doing, I will have bar work, traditional ARB bar work down here, but I will do that after the wrap has been done, and the wrap is probably going to be only done in April. Okay, I've got a stunning colour, beautiful colour. No, it's green, not green. Something else, beautiful. I think it is going to be absolutely stunning. So, yeah, but I've done a lot. I don't really see, you can't see in this. Next live, we'll probably have a second camera running around, but I've got a temporary battery in there, but I've been starting to do all my electrics inside the car, including in here. I wish I had a camera I could show you, because in this little, in the center here, I've got this Bushman Roadie, 15-litre fridge. Excuse me, I'm going to have my iced coffee. 15-litre fridge in between the seats. You saw it in the last video. Fantastic. Ice cold, unbelievably quickly. Perfect. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Highly recommend it. Can't go wrong because it gets cool fast, it's a good size, and you cannot hear the fan. Very quiet fan. To me, that's important for a fridge between the seats. You don't want to hear the fan. Doesn't make a noise. So, next question.
So on Patreon, Roger has asked concerning your fridge, have you had to move the back seats out because of it, or were you going to do that anyway?
No, you don't have to move the back seats out. Not at all. In fact, it has at the back of the fridge 2 cup holders for if you're going to keep the back seats in. There is a penalty to pay because it does protrude behind the back seats by not very much, about this much. But if you were going to have 3 people in the back, the middle person is going to get a little bit annoyed with the fridge there. Yeah, not to a big degree, but it will. But 2 people in the back doesn't affect them at all. In fact, it's nice for them because it's a place for them to put stuff. So I am removing the back seats purely because, and I'm going to be doing an installation in here for camera charging. My batteries are going to be here. Again, keeping the weight forward. Although they're not heavy, they still weigh something. Got to keep them forward. And all my electricals here. So no matter what I bolt on the back, it's basically a Deutsch plug, which will probably be a 7-pin or 10-pin Deutsch plug with the electrics, and then a power cable. And so I can take anything on the back, plug it in, boom, everything is plugged in and working. That's my idea. But the control center with the, I've got the Red Arc DC to DC in there. I'm going to show it in the video, all the installation, electrical installation. I've done it all myself. I've been to that guy, you know him, Heine Klarman from Perth Pro, and Klarman Auto Electrics, advising me on stuff. And but I'm doing it myself, and I will show you the detail in the videos. I will do that because I think this is what this series is kind of people are liking, is the detail, and I'm liking it because I'm doing it myself. I'm not sending it to a shop. I'm doing it myself. I will. Quick Pitch will be doing some of the work here, but I'll be doing a lot of it myself too. Okay. Any other?
You've had your first super chat from Siddharth. Diff lock versus winch. What would you suggest?
I don't think you can say one or the other, but I get where you're coming from. You don't have the money for both at this stage. Which one should I do first? And that's kind of where I'm going to take this question, the premise of this question, because they do obviously very, very different things. You know that. I don't need to explain that to you. Rear diff lock, I would think rear diff lock. You know, here's a little thing about differential locks. We all know that they are fantastic, but they have one big downfall, is that drivers use them too much, I think. And why I say that is, it stops them learning and it stops them becoming good four-wheel drivers. You see, because if you've got open front and back differentials, I'm not talking about center, hey? I'm talking about a locked transmission. Drive to the back is equal to the driver to the front, but I've got open left and right back axles. You're driving off-road and you get some wheel slip. But you've got wheel slip because you've got an open differential. That's the reason for the wheel slip. It doesn't stop the car moving, it just slows it. So how do you then counteract that? If you have a differential lock on the back, you get so much less wheel spin. You don't learn to counteract the wheel spin when you get it. So when you do get it, you're at a far more advanced point in the obstacle track or whatever. So a rear differential lock improves performance anywhere where it is lumpy. It does not improve performance where it is flat. In fact, it can hinder performance when it's flat. Because if you've got a situation where you have a situation where the ground is flat and you want to turn on it, and you've got a rear differential lock engaged, so your two back wheels cannot turn differentially, you will actually start to bog down. It will cause you to bog down. It'll contribute to bogging down. So again, you know when to use it. But then you're coming off a beach is a typical obstacle where people have dug great big holes and the vehicle's doing this, boom, boom, like this. Rear diff, it's this magic button. Magic button. Try getting through it first. You see, there's a lot of egos with four-wheel drivers. We don't want to get stuck, and we don't want to look as if we're getting stuck. And that's the problem. You don't learn. The laboratory doors, if you put a differential lock on the back and you just lock it all the time when you're off-road, well, you're closing the laboratory door. Well, it is what it is, and if I get through, I don't get through. How about leaving it unlocked and learning how to be a better driver? Because then when you do need it, the guys without it can't get through unless they're really good drivers. The guys with the differential lock have got through, and they don't really know why they've got through. It's not because they're a good driver, it's because they've got a rear differential lock. So when it gets really tough, and you do lock it, and even with it locked, you're struggling, you're a good driver. That's how I feel about diff locks. So get one, be careful how you use it. Obviously, if the tarmac, if it's hard ground, it breaks differentials. It'll snap your differential. So, cause major damage. So be very careful on how you use it and understand what it's about, understand why you're using it. So that's my caveat to differential locks. Yes, they're fantastic, but understand them. It's important that you understand them. I would get one of those before I would get a winch. I would, definitely.
Jason from Patreon asks, why do you put the camper on the tray and not just the camper straight onto the vehicle to save weight?
Good question. Good question. Why am I not just putting the camper straight onto the vehicle? Why do I need a tray? Very good question. So, well, for me, the versatility of the ute is that I can choose what I put on the back. Now, the trouble in Australia, you cannot register a vehicle unless it has something on the back. So a vehicle with nothing on the back, it has to have a tail light with all of the lights, the number plate, the lighting, and all of that. So I'm not saying you can't register it, but there are issues, okay? With that on the back, I've got the side pockets. That's very nice. I've got a big drawer in the back. I've actually got a water tank in there. I've got, it's kind of pretty useful, even as it is now, pretty useful. But the fact of the tray is that I can put what I like on it and I have freedom. Whereas if I didn't use the tray to save weight, and it would save weight, I would put something on the back and that's it. That's what the vehicle is. So imagine a vehicle like this with a camper on the back. How versatile is that vehicle? It's not versatile at all. Not versatile. It's just designed as a camper. So the great thing about utes, pickups, is that they're fantastically versatile vehicles. But you need a tray to keep them that versatile.
So Ed asks on Patreon, what is your new turning circle after...
It's a new turning circle. Okay, so I knew and I know that there will be a turning circle penalty to pay with a longer wheelbase. Logic. I will be filming because I don't know. Can I feel it? Yes, I can feel it. Is it obvious? Only in a parking lot. Only in a parking lot. Doing a U-turn feels a bit like the troopy. In a parking lot, I can feel it because I'm not coming out of a parking lot like this. I'm coming out of a parking lot like this. Okay. Is it terrible? No, but it's getting close. In a parking lot, it's a bitch in a parking lot. It's not a mall car, okay? It's not designed as a mall car. I was talking about compromises. Yeah, it's one of the compromises. I will do a comparison. I don't think it's as bad as I thought it would be. I think if we compare the two, you'll see a difference, but it won't be massive. But it's there. I can feel it. I can feel it. But I can live with it.
So, Free to Wheel on YouTuber.
Who's that?
Free to Wheel.
Free to Wheel YouTuber, yes.
You say you're putting in a couple of lithium batteries. Why are you switching to lithium when in your old build you were so against them?
I wasn't against them. No. Got me all wrong there. I wasn't against them. What I said was there were question marks in terms of its ability, because if they burn, you've lost your vehicle, and there were question marks. I had question marks. There were question marks. With the batteries, I could do a whole video on this, but I'll try and keep this short. I had lead crystal batteries, and I proved that the lead crystal technology was very, very good. I did not say it was better than lithium because I didn't know lithium. Lithium also is very, very good. So I was comparing the two, and I saw lead crystal, you're paying considerably less for lead crystal, and you're getting the same performance or very similar performance, very high performance, extremely good performance when compared to a flooded lead acid or AGM battery. Okay, far better performance in both cases. But the weight issue with lead crystal, they're lead batteries. They're lead-based batteries, same weight as an AGM or a flooded lead acid, same weight. And of course, lithium, we're talking less than 50% of the weight. So, again, very much a weight issue. I then did some research on lithium. Now, the lithium batteries is one of those technologies that has advanced so unbelievably rapidly in the last 2 or 3 years. Even 2 or 3 years. My troop carrier was just over 3 years ago, okay? And I put in the lead crystal. Okay, 2 things about lead crystal. Lead crystal, you can no longer buy them in Australia. And I don't know if you can buy them in North America. There was a court case involving the intellectual property. I'm not going to give you some, because I'll have lawyers on my back. Lawyers, listen to me, and this is what I'm saying to everybody. From what I know at this point and from what I have been told, if in doubt, check it for yourself. I'm not presenting these as facts. I'm presenting these as what I understand. Sorry, guys, I've got to do this. You have no idea how this kind of thing, I'm not allowed to say anything. Okay, but this is, as far as I know, the intellectual property, there was a breach of it. Therefore, you cannot buy lead crystal batteries in Australia anymore. The website is closed. You cannot buy any. North America, I don't know. So they're no longer available. Would I fit them now, given this honestly, would I fit them instead of the lithium right now? No. 2 reasons. A, weight, this whole vehicle, the whole point of this vehicle and getting that, spending all that money and getting the axle tank back was a weight issue. Get the weight forward. Okay. But that's not the main reason. The main reason is that the batteries I've got in there now, I don't know if you can see them, it's a blue thing, you might just have it's strapped in there temporarily. I'm putting 2 100 amp batteries, lithium. They have, like all of these batteries now, they're now safe, or much safer. They have inbuilt electronics in every lithium battery. And what that inbuilt electronics does, if I go now and short circuit that battery, it will turn itself off. Click, dead battery. And you've got to do certain things to revive the battery. Okay? So even if I had a massive short circuit, it will turn itself off. Okay? As soon as there's an overdraw of current. Now these batteries they're 100 amp batteries, each one can deliver 100 amps constant. If you ask it to deliver 120, it'll do it for a very short time and then it'll turn itself off. So with two batteries in parallel, it will deliver 200 amps constant, which is enough, more than enough, to maintain. I've got a 2000 watt red arc inverter in the back. Those two batteries will maintain. One of them wouldn't, because if you were running something at 2000 watts, that's, I don't know how many amps that is. It's more than 100, well over 100. One battery won't cope, it'll turn itself off. Also, the amount of charge that they can accept is massive. These lithium batteries can accept, I always used to say the lead crystals they would just suck up current. They would. These are the same. They suck up current, even to the point, I think probably better than lead crystal in terms of absorbing current. So that's why I'm going lithium. I didn't say lithium was bad. I didn't say that. I just said at that time there were fewer questions with lead crystal. The performance was very similar, maybe even as good, with the weight penalty. Now those question marks have been removed in terms of safety. I'm getting the saving of weight, and I'm still getting the performance, if not better. But I will find out as I use them, because I, like everybody, I'm learning about lithium, the pros and cons of lithium, and how they perform, and are they safe. And I'm learning like you guys. So all I'm doing, the only difference between me and you is that I learn something and I say something and lots of people listen to me. It's the only difference. I'm just learning, trying to figure it out. So anyway, I'm going lithium. That's why I'm going lithium. Right.
Tourer on YouTube asked your advice. He's in the market to buy a used auto HDJ 100 or a VDJ 200 for Outback touring and touring for work. What would you choose and why?
Okay, so I'd probably choose the 100, the 100 VX. If you can find a low mileage 100 VX 4.2 multi-valve diesel, I love that engine. That engine was built for mega mileage. Mega mileage. I love them to drive. I actually think the 100 is better than the 200. I'll probably be machine gun for saying that, but I don't know, there was something about the 100. And I know I love my 105. But I've also driven the independent front suspension 100. You give it a little bit of a lift. Okay, don't go more than 2-inch lift. Don't dream of it, because it'll just chew up the CV joints. Do what they recommend in terms of changing the front suspension geometry. Okay, because I think you have to change the caster angle as well. I'm assuming. Get some expert advice on that front suspension layout of a 100. You're spending far less. If you can find one with low mileage, I think I would go 100. I think since what you're using it for, 100 is a fantastic car. Oh, I should say this. I mean, having a bit of hassle again with Gbbr owners in South Africa, going on and on about this flipping Dakar win. And I say to them, for heaven's sakes, how many times did it win the Dakar in its standard form? Not as its race car form, it's not the same thing. And you know who won it the most in that period? In the standard class, Land Cruiser 100, the independent front suspension Land Cruiser 100. Won it more often than any other. Very strong vehicle. Really, really good car. There you go.
How are the Falcon tyres doing?
Okay. I had the mud terrains on my troop carrier. I sold it with those mud terrains. I liked them very much. They were good all-round performers. I didn't have to drive it in the wet, so I like to test a mud tire in the wet. I don't know how good it is in the wet. On gravel, great. Sand, very good. Good. Absolutely happy with them. So, of course, they were very happy that I said, could you give me some tyres for this vehicle? They were very happy. And I thought, well, I'd like to give them a try. And I'll give them a little bit of a plug here. I asked Sheikh Hamad in the Emirates. Remember, I went to the museum just in Sharjah province, just outside, about an hour outside Dubai. And Gwen and I were the very first people to see his new museum. We were the very first people. The previous day, they'd been taking all of the cotton sheets off all the car and making it all off the cars and getting all the lights to work on the last. We were the first people to go in there. And he invited us around for a meal. And it was wonderful. We sat in a kind of under a marquee with a fire burning, and we were sitting on the ground in traditional Arab, the way they do it, and enjoying the Arab hospitality. And I said to him, Sheikh Hamad, hope he doesn't mind me saying, I said, what are your favorite tires? Please tell me, what are your favorite tires? He said, Goodyear, I think it's called a Duratrack. It's the Kevlar Goodyear. Yeah, he said, and Falcon. I said, really? Falcon? Yeah, he just said to me, good tires. I don't want to press him anymore. And that was kind of the catalyst for me to come back. And when I got back there and I phoned the guys at Falcon and said, okay, we're going to put some of those on this truck as well. Do you want to give me some? And they said, of course we'll give you some. So that's why I'm going the Falcon route. I mentioned before tire sizes and things. They don't make a 2. If they had a 285 55, I'd have it on like a shot, but they don't make it. So I've gone, again, a little bit of a compromise, a little wider than I would like. It's very, very good on the tar. I did it first long run yesterday. It wasn't a particularly long run. Good, quiet, but it's early days.
Okay, question on Patreon. In an older video, you said clearance and low range were paramount. Lockers were nice to have, but not necessary. For trucks like the Discovery 2 with brake-operated traction control, what are your thoughts on true trucks, limited slip differentials, working with the traction control at all times versus having selectable lockers?
Okay, I'm going to try and simplify that question. Basically, the question was a combination of locking differentials and traction control. If I'm kind of understanding the question, the combination, what's better, a manual locking differential or traction control, and at the end of the day, what is better? I'm just going to try and simplify the answer to this. If you are a good, experienced driver, locking diffs, no question. There's no question. I remember first driving one of my first traction control systems in it was a Range Rover Sport crossing a river. And it was a river crossing that was quite lumpy at the end and quite slippery. Nice obstacle, a good obstacle for testing diff locks, because there were some holes and it was slippery as anything. And I remember driving through it in rocks mode. So with traction control systems, you often have to select, like the Land Rover systems, you have to select. So you have to, as a driver, instead of your input with your hands and feet, you've got far more mental decision. Well, what does it look like? Because there's mud and rocks. So I put it on rocks. I couldn't get through. It just wouldn't go through. Because I could see the differential lock systems on the dashboard, and I would say, why are you unlocking you're unlocking the differential because I'm turning the steering wheel. That's why you're locking it. I don't want you to lock it. I want it locked. Because I'm now turning the steering wheel, it's thinking it wants to turn, it wants to electronically help me turn, so it unlocks one of the differentials. Very clever, right? Yeah, it's clever. But it couldn't get through. It wouldn't get through. So I thought, okay, let me try mud and grass setting. It was one of the earlier Range Rover Sports. Mud and grass setting, straight through. Okay, but it was rocks. Okay, so again, you've got to learn. You've got to learn what the car's going to do. I then took my 105, which was up at the campsite, and drove it through with open front and back differentials, and it just drove straight through. Open diffs front and back. Just drove straight through. Differential locks that you can control are fantastic if you understand what's going on. Traction control is fantastic if you don't, and it's the whole thing about locking differentials. You don't learn how to drive well. It's far more difficult to take a vehicle with clever traction control and become a good driver than it is with a vehicle with no traction control and no differential locks. I hope that helps you with your question. I hope it does. I hope that gives you a little bit of insight on how I feel about that.
Jeremy says hello.
Jeremy from Seattle.
Yes.
G'day, mate. No worries. Nice to see you.
Question from...
That's Jeremy. Jeremy in the channel? Big Jeremy? Big Jeremy? Yeah. That's him.
Adrian from Patron asked, I'll be doing a build in approximately 2 years, but the vehicle will also be my daily driver for work. He's torn between the Land Cruiser 79 and the Hilux.
Okay, Land Cruiser 79 and Hilux. You're torn between the two of them. Okay.
As a daily driver.
As a daily driver. Oh, the Hilux is a much nicer daily driver than this. Much nicer. It's easy to park. It's more comfortable. It's got better seats. It's Hilux is a car truck. This is a truck car. Understand the difference? So, but for... You know, it's not that it's horrible to drive in town. It's not horrible to drive in town. It's nice to drive in town. Do a few things. You're going to have to do more to this to get it right than you can with a Hilux. Hilux is a if you think about a Hilux, it's like an appliance. It's like, you know, small cars these days, small Hyundai and a little Kia, and then they're appliances. We get in them, use them, come home. When it comes to a ute, Hilux is a bit of an appliance. It's a good one, yeah. I think they've finished all of their rubbish with their DPF stuff. Gee, they handled that terribly, Toyota. Handled it terribly. Anyway, I believe that's sorted. What would I do? No, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. And I'll tell you why it's a no-brainer. Tell you why it's a no-brainer. It's got nothing to do with the cars. It's a no-brainer because every time you get in it to go to work in your 79, and when you get in it to go to work, you'll get a chill, you'll get a thrill, you'll get a this is my 70. I know I'm only going to work. You will get the buzz that you get when you get in it and you're about to go down and do a long trip and go and camp on the beach for a week and a half. That is a feeling you will get every single time you step into this thing as your daily driver. It's about what it is, not just about the fact that it can offer you different things. So therefore, hopefully you're no longer torn between the two. Make your decision and go with that. You're not going to be disappointed either way, but one way, you're actually going to be thrilled. Okay.
What's your opinion on 4Runners?
The 4Runner. I wish I could have more experience with the 4Runner to be able to answer that question. Are you talking about the old or the new ones? The new ones available now in the United States. The old ones are based basically on a Hilux. It was basically a Hilux platform with a different body on it. It's good. They're good. I mean, they're good. You know, Hiluxes are good cars. They're well made, good performance, pretty reliable. Sometimes a bit silly resale value. Actually, it's a bit silly, some of the resale values of a good 4Runner. I don't think they're... The new one, I don't have enough information. All I do know is that the 4Runner, the current 4Runner with the 4-litre V6 petrol motor, wow, it's thirsty. It's really thirsty. That and the Tacoma, Gee, they drink fuel. That's, you know, but that's its problem, biggest problem. Other than that, I'm not that familiar with it.
Someone asked if they can rent your Africa Land Cruiser for a trip around Zambia and Botswana.
Somebody asked if they could rent my Africa Land Cruiser. No, sorry. Sorry, no. There are plenty of rental companies. Do you want me to give you some? I'll give you some rental companies. Tech Pro, got some nice Land Cruisers. What's the English one? Safari Drive. Land Cruisers in Zambia and Namibia. Bush Law in South Africa. Bush Law, you guys owe me a favor. You know how many times I have promoted your company? You owe me a favor. I want to organize you need to give me a free rental for a mate of mine. I want to go and do a trip. Okay. Those are the three. Those are the three. I don't, and not in any necessarily preferential, go and rent one from them. You can't borrow mine, sorry. It's the reason why I built it, is because I can't stand rental cars. I want to have my car when I'm in the bush, my stuff, and not have to go, argh, because something has, no, that's why I built it. So because I don't want to rent anymore. Not that the renters are bad, they're not bad. I'm not saying they're bad. It's that when I want my stuff. So if I might turn my car into a rental, it'll just become a rental. No, thanks. Anybody else?
Are you going to chip the engine?
Yes, I am going to. Am I going to chip the engine was the question. I'm going to go the same route. I'm going to go the same route without being boring. I'm going to go the Unichip because I know the owner of the... He was, as far as I know, the guy who actually invented the engine management chip that you add to the vehicle that controls the engine management system. And now there are lots on the market. I must give you a warning now. There's some bad stuff on the market. Whoa, there's some bad stuff. Cook your engine, destroy it, bad. When going shopping, be careful. That's all I have to say about this. Be careful. Don't go for the cheapest. It's the most expensive. Somebody said this to me the other day. He said, and I think I'll quote it, he said, I am far too poor to go the cheapest route. Cheap is not cheap. Cheap is expensive. So the Unichip is probably one of the more expensive ones, I reckon, but I know the guy who developed it. I know his mental attitude to chipping an engine, and that is if it's potentially going to cause damage to the engine, it's just an absolute non-starter. I don't care. And it's making the cars more efficient as well as, and in doing so, giving them the extra power. So I will be putting in the Unichip, but I will be upgrading the clutch. On my troop carrier in crossing the Simpson, and when I sold my troop carrier, I said to the chap that I sold it to, I'm not selling it to you with the chip, I'm taking the chip out. And he said, why? And I said, because I have not upgraded the clutch. And I was in the Simpson, and once going up a very steep dune, and I must tell you, this motor, on setting number 2, on the Unichip, on dunes, wow, what a beautiful, it was so responsive, just, you could just, fantastic. And then one moment it went, whoop, and my mind was, what was that? What was that? I didn't know what it was. The motor just went, whoop. I saw the rev counter like this, just went like this. I didn't understand what it was. And about 3 days later, it happened again. But then I realized that was a clutch slip. That was a moment, because I was probably doing this with the throttle, going through these dunes, probably on and off. Now I'm very proactive, just keeping it smooth. And suddenly, woof, clutch slip. And I turned the Unichip off at that moment. Whoa, that happens and I lose it, and actually, clutch gone. It'll rip the clutch to pieces. So I am going to chip it, but I am replacing the clutch with and I'm trying this product out. It's called a fortified clutch. It's made by Terrain Tamer. The idea of, because the difference between a clutch and a heavy duty clutch is basically the springing. The springing that actually clasps the two things together. So heavy duty clutch has got a heavier spring, okay? And some you tend to feel it through the pedal, others you don't. I drove one the other day made by NPC, is it? I'm not very good at this kind of thing. It was somebody else's vehicle, and he mentioned it to me, and the clutch was still good. It was still good, but that's important. I don't want the heavy clutch on a, I don't want that. What the fortified clutch is not just a heavier spring, but they've also done something with the actual clutch material. So it's ultra heavy duty without any difference of the pedal movement. So I'm going to be fitting that and reviewing it, be able to give my impressions of it. But I'm going to be doing that at the same time as putting in the chip, and my friends at Perth Diesel Performance are going to be doing that within the next month. How are we doing viewers-wise, by the way?
We have about 700, 800 people.
Wonderful, 800.
Someone's asking, they've got a Forester, they love it, now they want to buy an Outback. They want to give it a 2-inch lift, all-terrain tires, use as a daily driver. Do you have any experience with the Subarus? No,
I must say that the Outback is one of my favorite saloon cars of all time. It's something about it. It's just so nice to drive. The four-wheel drive system is fantastic. It was a little heavy on fuel, not grossly heavy, just a bit heavy on fuel, but what a pleasure to drive. Can you put a 2-inch lift in an Outback? I'm the wrong person to ask. I'm just the wrong person to ask. The Forester, again, similarly, particularly the older ones, so nice to drive. So I could tell you, do we have lots and lots of questions, or can I tell them a Forester story? Subaru Forester story. I can tell. Okay. Quick Forester story. This was the birth. When did the newer shape come in? At that cusp when it came in, I was doing something, and it was probably 2000 and, my guess, 8 probably. 2008. In Lesotho. Old shape Forester. Driving around. Went up a place called Sani Pass. Fantastic pass. Car's fantastic. Wonderful car. And before I left, the shoot was paid for because it was for a TV show. By Subaru, they contributed some amount. Got a phone call from the CEO. Can we give you one of the new ones? You can't have it for the whole shoot, but I can get one down there for the last day of the shoot. I said to her, hey, I'm going to do my best to help you out. And we made an arrangement. He then arrived, this chap arrives in the new one. Pretty nice looking, okay? I'm now driving. I said, right, we've got to go up the hill. We're going to shoot the thing at the waterfall. You're going to follow me. And then we're going to come back down. Then we'll do the swap over of the old for the new. I'm driving up to the top of the hill. And I love the Forester. I am hanging the tail out. This thing is wonderful to drive on a twisty gravel road. I'm in my absolute element. I look in my rear vision mirror, and this guy is pinned behind me. And I'm moving. And I think, okay, this is cool. So I get out, we do the shoot. I get into the new one, and now I've got to go all the way back in the new one. I can go even faster. It's got traction control. It's going, it's going flat out. The traction control is going flat out. And I am going as fast as I possibly dare. I look in the rear vision mirror, and there's a guy in the old version pinned on my tail. So we arrive at the bottom, and I said to him, tell me, what do you do for Subaru? He said, I'm their test driver. I said, so I wasn't actually going that fast, was I? And he went, nah, not really. Anyway, it was a good story. So that's my Subaru story. I don't know, but the Outback is a wonderful car. It's a wonderful car. If you can do a 2-inch lift, I don't know. I would speak to the Subaru guys. The Subaru guys, they're mad enthusiasts. They'll know. I reckon they will probably point you in the right direction.
So, Ben from Patron asked, do you recommend a GVM upgrade for a single cab cruiser with a slide on to cover extra weight for long touring, including water and fuel and such in Australia?
So the question is, do you need it? So the question is, do you recommend a GVM upgrade for a Land Cruiser single cab with camper for long range touring in Australia? There are pros and cons with a GVM upgrade. If you go and have a GVM upgrade, they're going to change the springs and the suspension, and you will then have a warranty on that. So it's going to cost you, but you're going to have a new set of suspension. That's very, very nice. And they will decide what set of springs and what shock absorbers. Okay, because they've got that package approved for the approved package for the GVM upgrade, like I've got here. I can't go just now go and change stuff. That's it. Okay. So understand that once you get a GVM upgrade, you are locked in a little more into what the vehicle is. Okay. You can't, for example, if you've got a ute, and one of the disadvantages of this is the ride is quite hard. Not terrible, but it's pretty hard. And I don't have much weight on the back. And it'll get much better when there is weight on the back, because I've got a great big stack of leaf springs. You will have the same. So if your vehicle is built as a camper and will always be carrying a reasonably high payload, then I would say do a GVM upgrade. Then if you're stopped and it checked your weight and everything, you're free. Because I know what it's like, that even the standard Land Cruiser doesn't have a particularly good payload capacity. So if you've got a camper on the back of it, you're probably exceeding the GVM anyway. So I would say do it for your own safety, legal, but understand that that's the thing. But if it stays loaded and stays heavy, then I don't think you'll be disappointed. I don't think you will. And if you've got the money, get something like the BP51 ARB set. Wow, my Troopy rode. I mean, I didn't have the GVM upgrade, but my Troopy rode well, eh? Really, really, really well. So I would say probably good idea.
Okay, we've got 2 super chat questions.
Yes.
First one from Siddharth again. Why didn't you choose dual cab over crew cab?
Okay, dual cab. Because he asked why not crew cab. Okay, they don't make a crew cab in the 79. Doesn't exist. So it was either single cab or this. There was no choice. I did consider single cab, but I mentioned in one of my videos, when I'm filming, I'll jump out and I need to get to kit. Single cab, there's no space in the cab for anything. Where am I going to, if I'm traveling with somebody, where am I going to put even a small camera bag? There's nowhere. It's its biggest problem. Not that it's particularly cramped, there's just nowhere to put stuff. And I need stuff in my work. I need to be able to access cameras. But now I can climb out of the vehicle, I can open the door, and I can access stuff. So that's why I went double cab. What are you sniggering about?
Just questions.
Oh, good. funny questions.
Mark Rose asks, could a Suzuki Jimny be made into a serious Overlander?
I'd love to be given the opportunity to try. The question is, can a Suzuki Jimny be made into an effective Overlander? Give me a chance to try. Suzuki, would you loan me one, please, for a year? I'll convert it into an amazing Overlander. Again, it's the old problem. Range versus payload. You need a range of 600 miles, 100,000 kilometers. That to me is the benchmark of an Overlander. It doesn't matter where it's driven. You need 1,000 kilometers. Getting 1,000 kilometers out of that thimble-sized fuel tank in a Jimny is a problem. What do you do about it? At this moment, I don't know. That's the first challenge, is how do I get this thing to travel that distance? So I have to do something with the payload. I would keep things very simple, though. I wouldn't put on something like a rooftop tent. Oh, no. But I would put a roof rack. Okay. To put your chairs, bulky stuff. Get all the bulky light stuff out of the car. And I definitely wouldn't put a rooftop tent on it. And then find some way of carrying fuel inside, probably in jerry cans. I think it's possible. I would love the opportunity to try. And man, I could make that thing look good. Oh, and I wouldn't even need to change the color, because the Jimny comes in such marvelous colors. Anyway, that would be so nice. I'd love to do that. I would love to take a Jimny and do a major trip with it, because I loved it. As you know, the gearbox is a bit dim-witted, but apart from that, actually, I loved it.
It's a bit of a common question. If you could, would you have the 79 in auto? And how easy is it to fit in?
Okay, it's not difficult at all to do a conversion into an auto gearbox. It's not difficult. It's a bit pricey. I don't know what the prices are actually, but it's not a small amount of TOM to convert it into. Would I convert it into a auto? Yeah, I think it's one of those things that I would definitely take seriously. Maybe I will down the road a bit. Maybe I should do that. That would be good. Would be a good experiment, wouldn't it? I think the auto box. I've driven auto boxes off-road on my first experience of a really long trip was my G-Wagon in Namibia, northern Namibia. Very long trip, and the roads were kind of twisty, and then straight, and then turn, twisty, cross a river, and then turn, for like 5 days. Autobox, marvelous for that kind of thing. The amount of driver fatigue, it eliminates it virtually. Yes, I would. I would put an Autobox in, and maybe I'll do it.
Patron question. What do you think of the Jeep Gladiator catching up with the 79 series pickup version, since they're bringing the diesel into it soon?
Okay, I think again the Gladiator has, it's like the JK. The JK as it stands is not unlike this in terms of, as it's delivered, it's a marvelous platform with a couple of very annoying niggles. Now with this, the niggle is, for example, the narrow axle and a few other things. Jeep niggle is, if I'll overload this thing, I'm just going to break that back axle. But the platforms are both marvelous if you're willing to throw money at them. Gladiator, I think it's the same thing. I think it's exactly the same thing. And although I've seen the Gladiator, I've walked around it, I've sat in it, I've not driven it, they are talking about the diesel in the US, which means, the range issue. That range issue, which again was that great big question mark, is getting the range out of that very, very thirsty six-cylinder Jeep engine, is now solved. Is it solved? Maybe. So it's one of the reasons why the Gladiator, in terms of the US, is definitely on my list, because it's so easy to adapt. Yes, it's got annoying niggles. What hasn't? So I think it has huge potential. I really do think it has huge potential. Loan me a Jeep for a couple of years in North America, I'll build an amazing Overlander. Here, all these invitations going out for you guys to spend your money on me.
Question from YouTube. Hi Andrew, I saw you spoke about LED color temperatures. Have you considered far light products? Australian made, design, manufactured.
Okay, no, I haven't. The question was, have I Australian FAR, F-A-R-R?
F-Y-R.
F-Y-R. I don't know them. I'm not familiar with them. Apparently they're a light maker here in Australia. I'm going to try these and see how they go. Hella made me the offer. I was doing some investigation. They made me the offer. I put them on there. They seem to work very, very nicely. I'll see how they go and maybe change them. I don't know. The laboratory drawer is open. I will try them. I don't know them, actually.
Ben from Patron asked, do you run 10-ply tyres on the new double cab? Are they slightly wider like the tyres you tried on the True P?
So I answered the tyre width question the other day. These are, the Falcon have, I don't know how many tread plies there are. I'm not going to go and lean down and look right now. I can't remember how many tread plies there are. The sidewall ply is only 2, which is unfortunate. I would much prefer 3. But numbers of plies are not the only thing. It's an important factor, not the only factor. So that question's a little bit too specific for me to answer. But I did talk about tyre sizes earlier on in the show. I answered the tyre size question in quite some detail. Somebody's cooking bacon and eggs. Can you smell it?
Yeah.
There's a smell of bacon and eggs, and
it's probably Gwen.
Ooh, no, Gwen's not here. She's gone. Oh dear, that's bad. That's really bad. Okay, what else? How are we doing, by the way? Oh, we are Oh, hour and a half already. Okay, got another 30 minutes, guys. Then I'm going to wrap it up. So any other questions? Send them through now. Patreons, if you want to send through a question, I'll definitely get to you first. And other questions, if you want to make sure that I do get to you, there's that thing that you pay for it and you put up a thing and your question, you have to pay for it. Doesn't matter how much you want to contribute to the channel. It's completely up to you, but your question will shoot to the top and we will get to your question. So I've got half an hour to field your questions. Any question you like about the channel, about this vehicle, about anything you like. Bring it on.
G300 Professional or 79?
C300 Professional, are you talking the G300 Professional or the 79? All right. Okay, these two vehicles, Mercedes-Benz are pulling the G-Wagon out of Australia. Okay, they're pulling them out. There are probably a few left, so if you wanted one, I would rush off and get it now. So you're talking probably at least $20,000 to $30,000 more for the Mercedes-Benz. The single cab Mercedes-Benz, I couldn't get one to test drive. I couldn't get one to test drive, and I actually took it off my list because Mercedes-Benz were not interested. Okay, and you can see that they weren't never interested in that car. It had something to do with a military contract. So anyway, the 300 Professional pickup is incredibly cramped inside. I have heard this from somebody who has driven them extensively, and he said you cannot move the seat back far enough. It's horrible to drive. Very hard suspension, which can be sorted. The suspension can be sorted. Even the cab, the Earth Cruiser used to offer the G-Wagon Professional pickup, long wheelbase, and they extended the body to make it more comfortable inside, to sort that problem out. Land Cruiser, the best part about the Land Cruiser, of course, is extremely adaptable, and you can get products of every nature under the sun, particularly here in Australia. It's fantastic. And it's beautifully adaptable. So actually, it's a no-brainer. Land Cruiser. It's actually a no-brainer. As nice as the G is, that single cab has major flaws in terms of driver and passenger comfort, but it's incredibly able off-road. It's better than this off-road, no question. It's superb off-road. It's as good as you can get. The G, both in the long wheelbase and the short wheel and the middle wheelbase station wagon. Off-road, outstanding. Far better than Land Cruisers. In most situations, I'm generalizing here. I am generalizing. Okay, in most situations, better off-road. Fantastic clearance, wonderful things. They are wonderful things. I wouldn't buy one. As good as they are, I wouldn't buy one. Because at the end of the day, these offer actually more for less.
Are you going to be doing a budget build, essentially?
Now Cameron said, are you doing a budget build, essentially? And he's giving me this wry smile. So shall I tell him?
Yeah.
Okay. So I am helping Cameron and Kate build it's basically an Overlander for backpackers. Basic Overland tourer. We've bought the vehicle, they bought the vehicle. I made some recommendations. They went out and with those recommendations bought a vehicle. I think they made an extremely good choice. Not going to tell you what it is. And we're doing a basic, Cam's is good with wood and that kind of thing. He's doing a basic drawer packing system in the back. They want to be able to sleep in the back or sleep on a separate tent. They want to be able to have the choice, which is a good idea. So when you set up at the beach, you just set up the tent, put out a little bit of shade, and you've got a place to stick around. Or if you just want one night camp, quickly organize things in the car and sleep in the car. Okay, which is best of both worlds. Simple battery systems. Simple, everything simple. For example, the split charge system. What is the best, really cheap split charge system you can get? A flippin' great big cable like this and a switch. What else do you need? It works. It works. Yes, it's not quite as efficient as We're not talking about maximum efficiency here. We're talking about low-cost efficiency. So yes, we are going to do one. And we actually started filming that already. So I think hopefully we'll be able to start running that series within 2 months or so. It'll probably be a 4 or 5 series show. It's good actually. We've been choosing batteries. For example, we'll get a battery that's, no, don't buy the cheapest battery. How long do we want the car to last? Oh, I want good for 3 years. Well, if you buy that battery, that cheap rubbish, after a year it's dead. What's the point? But we're also not going to go lithium. It's too expensive. And also with lithium, you need special chargers. Again, more and more money. So we buy an AGM, but we buy a good quality one. Yeah, that's what we're doing. So I think it'll be a good show. I think it'll be a really, really good practical thing. We're having fun with that.
Joshua from Patron asked, what car surprised you the most that you have driven as an off-roader / overlander?
What car surprised me the most what I've driven as an off-road overlander? Surprised me the most. Surprised me the most. Okay, let's think. One of Porsche Cayenne. I was given one of the first Porsche Cayennes. I was given the S Turbo. And what surprised me about it was that how amazing that they could actually take a large SUV like that with low range and good clearance. Well, it's all electronic, but it had low range and had good clearance. And I could drive it, and there was this mountain pass near where I lived called Solari's Pass, and it's like this, up the hill. This. And I sat at the bottom at 140 k's an hour. I think the speed limit there is probably 80. On an afternoon, there wasn't too much traffic, and I said to myself, I am going to stick this at 140, and I'm not going to let it go less than 140. A better driver could have done it at 160 easily. What an amazing machine that could do that. Then, I took it on a gravel road, and it was appalling. It was so bad, it was akin to the Toyota, or the Lexus GS 470 with the Ironman suspension with their foam shock absorbers that I drove in the US in 2017. It was as bad as that. And that's saying something. And Ironman guys, I know you're about to send me a letter. It's only my opinion, guys. You cannot sue me for my opinion. All right. That was a surprise because of how the car could do so many things so well. But then at the end, the gravel road performance over the corrugations was terrible, which was a function of its tires, had low profile tires. But anyway, other surprises I've had. I think the Iveco Daily was a bit of a surprise too, because I actually found it very nice to drive. And although the vehicle is very large, that quite small engine, considering its size, was really, really rather good. That was a bit of a surprise. And off-road, again, easy to drive and a bit of a surprise. So those are the two that come to mind right now. And the Jimny. Actually, that wasn't a surprise. I knew it was going to be good.
So Matt on...
Actually, the Jimny was a surprise because it was so good on the open road, even though it had a great big tent on the roof. So that was... Yeah. Carry on. Next question.
GX470 for the US Overlander / off-road
Yes.
rig.
Yes. Okay, so I said in my GX470, that's the Lexus. It's basically a Prado 120 with the GX luxury spec, the Lexus luxury spec, and you see the thing is with that vehicle, like basically it's FJ. That chassis is the same platform, and it's very adaptable. Give it a nice lift. You can upgrade the suspension to give it a bit of a payload. It's comfortable. The trouble is with the GX470, it is stupid fuel consumption. Stupid. I mean, it's not a case of saying, okay, well, that's bad, it's not bad fuel consumption, it's stupid fuel consumption. It's probably got a range of 350 miles, probably half of what you need. How do you, again, get that thing to use less fuel? I don't know. Store the fuel for an Overlander. Not a bad payload vehicle. But as a platform, it's such a nice combination of off-road ability, which it is. You can get some very good suspension packs with that thing to give it a lift and give it a really good ride. They are available. And so shop around and do test drives. Do test drives. Don't just decide, oh, that's the best suspension because the guy in the shop said it was. I heard the other day that some guy said that this again, it was an Iron Man, said it was the closest to the original. The closest to the original. The original is a mum's shopping car and it's all soft and awful. Why would you want it close to the original? But that was just somebody trying to sell somebody some suspension. Shop around, ask around, test drive around and find there's some amazing kits for that car. So again, it has that big drawback. Big petrol engine, high fuel consumption, low distance range capabilities. What are you going to do about it? Otherwise, it's a really nice car.
Lex on YouTube says you are amazing.
Thank you, Lex. Where's Gwyn? Somebody says I was amazing. She's not here. Just when you need her to... You see? I'm kidding. I am kidding. We get on very, very well. I give her a hard time all the time. In fact, if I'm not giving her a hard time, she says, where are you? What does it matter?
Nitin asks, I'm dreaming of replacing my primary vehicle that can also do some overlanding, considering Subaru and D-Max.
Okay, let's...
Quick answer.
D-Max, quick answer. D-Max, he's talking about, he wants to do some overlanding, he wants to do some off-roading, and he's going Subaru D-Max. Okay, here are the two things if you want to go off-road. Okay, and I'm talking big spectrum off-road. I'm not talking about just popping down the beach. You're popping down the beach in a bit of sand driving, you can do it in any vehicle with four-wheel drive. Not any vehicle, but you can, that's not really off-road. Off-road I'm talking about is various terrains where your traction and your clearance is limited. Okay, so what do you need? You need good clearance. Does the Subaru have good clearance? No, but it doesn't have terrible clearance, but it doesn't have good clearance. Does it have low ratio gearbox? Well, there are some Subaru Foresters that have a low ratio in some countries. The D-Max has good clearance, low ratio, diesel motor, really good range. It's a D-Max. It's a no-brainer. The two vehicles are very, very different. In terms of pure driving pleasure, the Subaru is a little nicer. What it can do, it's a no-brainer. Absolute no-brainer of what it can actually do at the end of the day. So, I hope that helps. I know it's a very simplistic answer, but at the end of the day, it's all up to clearance and low range. At the end of the day. See, the thing is that when I tell people with vehicles that I say, oh, maybe I should just get a two-wheel drive with a rear differential lock. That you know, and there were times when dealerships were saying it can do everything a four-wheel drive can do, which is just so complete. It's either an open lie or the guy's never been off-road, and he read it in an advert somewhere. And I say, well, the difference in two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive is, in a two-wheel drive, you're driving along and you're a little bit apprehensive that it's going to get a little bit too difficult, and that, oh, I hope it doesn't rain because it's already a bit slippery. Four-wheel drive, you're driving along saying, I wonder if it's going to get any worse. Oh, maybe it'll rain. There's the difference. One, you're apprehensive and a little bit nervous, and the one is you kind of want it to get worse. But when it does, then the four-wheel drive, you'll push through and get through, and the two-wheel drive, you'll go, and okay, big difference. Same difference with those two vehicles. Really, very similar difference between those two vehicles.
Shareth asks, which car do you use for your daily commuting?
Oh, we have a very nice Toyota Corolla. I don't commute. When Gun and I got married, 30 it's 30 years, this year it'll be our 30th wedding anniversary. When we got married, we decided what we're going to do with our lives. And we made a decision. And I said to her, I'm not commuting. I'm not going to commute. I'm not. Life is too short. I am not getting into the commute. So no matter what I do, and she said, you know, I feel exactly the same way. So what we then did is she got a job and started commuting. But it was a means to an end. And she did that for, a year and a half and then stopped, and that was it. That's all we needed. We needed to get past it. So I don't have a daily driver. If the Corolla is available, I use the Corolla. If it's not, I use this. It's not great as a daily driver, especially in car parks. I avoid car parks. I go park over there and walk to the shop.
So from Patreon, Chris says, Susie wants to know where you got those pants.
Do you have any idea how many people ask me where I got these pants? And the answer is I don't remember, and I wish I knew because I'd like to get myself some more. Next question. I bought them in England.
What's the current suspension on the 79?
Okay, the current suspension is Terrain Tamer. It's a Terrain Tamer package with their standard gas shock absorbers, front suspension, and rear spring sets at what kilogram? They're 600. Are they 600 kilos? I think they're 600 kilos. I don't think they're 800 kilos. I think they're 600s. Terrain Tamers, I said to them the other day, I've been driving the vehicle, it's quite bouncy at the back. Yeah, I don't have a load at the back, and I've got this enormous spring pack at the back, which is going to hinder things off-road a bit. Is there some way I can legally fit a parabolic? The Terrain Tamer make parabolics, and they said, soon we are developing the parabolic for the GVM upgrade with multi-drive technology in Geelong. They're doing tests now. And he said, as soon as we're done, we'll send you a set. Because the whole idea of a parabolic, the way it works, is that as the spring compresses, the spring rate increases. Whereas here, it's a standard, it's able to carry 600 kilograms, and it's supporting 600 kilograms, even if it's got nothing on the back. It's still supporting 600 kilograms. That's what it's designed for. So the bending moment is constant, okay? It has a constant bending moment. Parabolics, it's the first, about 200, and then 300, and then 400, and 500, and 600, you know what I'm saying? So it's various, so which means that when you're driving it and you don't have the load in the back, the suspension is able to move easier, therefore it's more comfortable, less vibration transmitted through the chassis, etc., etc. That's the principle of a parabolic. Parabolics have been around for decades. There's nothing new about them. It's just that not that many spring makers are making parabolics. It's old technology. It's as old as the kart spring. That's where I am with the suspension at the moment.
Ben from Patreon asks, what do you think of the Garmin Overlander?
Ah, good question. What do I think of the Garmin Overlander? So here you go. I'm going to unplug it. So that's the Garmin Overlander. All right. And can I turn it on? It is my first impressions of the Garmin Overlander is that it is very impressive. So one of the frustrations I have with GPSs should have ideally maps that match a map in the car. So you have a map in the car and you have a facsimile of that map on your GPS. That to me is the perfect combination. I had the HEMA HX1 map and I love HEMA's maps. I think they are sensationally good. Love using them. I had a map, I had an HX1, and I had a iPad. The iPad, and they all had HEMA maps. Okay, so I got 3 versions of the HEMA maps. The map on the iPad was the same as the map I had in my hand, but the map in the HX1 was not exactly the same. So I would have roads and tracks on the HX1 that were appearing on the iPad, but not on the HX1. I also didn't like the HX1 at all. gave it a review. I can't remember when I did a review. I don't like the HX1. I think it's a poor unit, and I think it's a poor unit because of its software. It just annoyed me on so many levels. And one of them, for example, is on Explore mode. The cursor where you show your car is orange, and the color of the tracks is orange. And half of the time, you don't know where your cursor is. So you have to go zoom all the way in. Oh, there it is. And then keep your eye on it as you expand the size of the map. Things like that. Little things like that. I actually spoke to one of the chaps that works there, and I said, can you not change the software and update it? Because it's got a few niggles. Otherwise, it's quite nice, but the software really could do with an update. And they kind of weren't that interested. Strangely, actually, because I think they're books and maps. I give them a thumbs up across the board. Love them. But they're navigators. That, however. So, for example, if I am, for example, if I'm driving and with the HX1, for example, if it's tracking me, it insists on going and showing me 100 meters in front of the car. How's that helping me? I don't want to know what's happening. I can see what's happening 100 meters in front of the car. I want to see a kilometer in front of the car. So you take your two fingers and you do this, you see. So can you see here? I don't know how well you can see that, but you can see I'm expanding it and I'm contracting it, okay. So what this one does, it stays the way it's. So I decide I want to see that much of the map, fine. It stays that way. HX1 wouldn't do that. It would always, after a while, 30 seconds, I can't remember, boom, go back to showing me 100 meters in front of the car. Annoying things like that. This doesn't do it. So, and also this is an Android device. So downloading stuff, running apps. My first impressions are that it is very good. I looked at the map set in here. I haven't put the HEMA maps in here. I'm sure they will work because it's an Android unit. I have another Android unit in the car where I'm going to be doing a video quite soon of the interior, which I'm almost finished. Very cool. So far, I've looked at the Garmin map set for Australia, surprisingly well detailed. Surprisingly well detailed. So what I thought, Garmin maps, HEMA maps. Two map sets, two completely separate map sets, and then the HEMA paper map. Hey, I think that combo will work very, very well. So, in summary, I think that could be, from my first impressions are very good. Okay. Any more questions? How are we doing? We have another 10 or so minutes, guys. Last chance, your questions.
A super chat on YouTube. Thoughts or experience with the second generation Isuzu Trooper?
The second generation Isuzu Trooper. The second generation one, you're talking about the one that was called the Jackaroo? We're kind of boxy, square back. It had, when I drove it on 2 trips actually, and it had it had a V6 in it, V6 motor. I've always regarded the Isuzu Trooper as one of the most underrated of the SUVs of its time. It was good off-road, it was really comfortable, had fantastic seats, had very practical inside, square, boxy, lots of packing space. It was very reliable, really well made. The V6 was, well, all V6s are a little bit thirsty. I found the V6 a little bit difficult to drive because I found the throttle was oversensitive. It's a small thing. But I was actually very impressed with it. If you could find a good one of those with low mileage on it, I think that would, because they're probably worth nothing. But I think they're potentially very good. I think that's the one you're talking about. Later than that, if it's later than that, then I don't have an answer for you because I don't know it. I don't know the vehicle specifically. Certainly not well enough to make a comment on it. If it's not that square, boxy one with a kind of a flat back. Yeah. Hope that helps.
John from Patron asks D-Max extra cab versus 79 dual cab.
Okay, so you're asking the difference between the 79 dual cab like this versus the D-Max also double cab?
Dual cab, yeah.
Dual cab.
Really interesting option on DPF operation?
DPF operations. So now, okay, DPF operations, I have my knowledge of DPF, for example, between the two, I can't be too specific between the two because to me I've had one experience of DPF and that was with my troop carrier and it's obviously the same platform as this and I found it wasn't a hassle in the slightest. I am one of these people that says, hey, if I can contribute to keeping the air cleaner, I'll be happy to do that. I remember what it was like living in a situation where exhaust fumes were an everyday occurrence. They're no longer an everyday occurrence because the cars are so much cleaner. So if I can contribute to that, so I will not be taking the DPF out of this car. Illegal or not, I won't be taking it out of this car. I will live with it. What does that actually mean? So I found that the DPF would turn itself on a long trip only twice, and I had my Troopy for a little under 3 years. Only twice did it actually activate while the car was actually standing, where I actually had to pull over and run it. Only twice in all that time. The rest of the time it would actually, but remember, most of my driving was long distance. So it would activate while I was driving on the open road. It would actually activate. And every now and again I'd press the little button to see where my DPF was doing. I was seeing on a 1 or a 2. It didn't need recharging. As I said, only twice did it affect me in any way at all. So in terms of other vehicles, the same thing, I don't know. I cannot give you, that's my experience of DPF. In terms of the difference between the two vehicles, you must remember that Land Cruiser is a heavy-duty four-wheel drive vehicle. These things are actually designed for, they're designed primarily for less developed countries. That's what they're designed for. And so that's why they make such good Overlanders, because they're strong. They take a beating and they last a long time. They've got a very, very long. So that's why they're actually what they're actually designed for. And whereas the D-Max, if you're going to load it heavily and do really tough trips, well, don't. You're going to need one of these. Depends on how tough the trips are. If you are just doing, some long runs and with the family and occasional off-road trail here and there, then you'll be fine. If you're going to be doing canning stock route every second year, you might want to think about one of these, because it's what the vehicles. This thing can do canning stock without touching a single component of the car every year for 30 years, with very little. Change the springs and the shocks and some rubber bushes and keep it serviced. So it's designed for. You won't do that with any. We won't do that with the Hilux or the Suzuki D-Max or the Ford Ranger. They're not designed for it. So there's understand what I'm saying? You've got to decide how much punishment and how much are you going to work the vehicle. It doesn't matter what the adverts say, super tough. It's meaningless. It's just advertising nonsense. It's the class and type of vehicle they are. This class of vehicle is quite rare because they're designed for a very, very narrow market band. Less developed countries. You must see some of these things in Africa and Asia and particularly Africa, the age they are never serviced and yet they just go on and on. Not necessarily with this motor, but they are designed for that. Whereas lesser vehicles, after 3 or 4 years of that, they just start falling apart. These don't. We're lucky to get them. Hope that helps a bit.
So Roland from Patron asks, we are still driving our 1986 H2 Troopy, 650,000 kilometers on it.
Yeah.
Wants to know if the new Troopies will be available in 2 years, if they were going to.
Okay, so here's so just in case you didn't get that, how many 600,000 kilometers? 650,000 kilometers on a troop carrier. Which model? The 86 model H2. Okay, so that is a, yeah. You see, I'm just 600 Ks, and they probably use that thing. Let's put it this way: that is not a fun car to drive around town. It's not. So what are they using it for? Touring. 650,000. They're designed for it, and you look after them, and they will easily do that kind of mileage. All right. So he's asking the question: do I think in 2 years' time the new Troopy will be available? So here's the thing with the danger of losing the 79 series to the world, as I see it. There are two forces at play here. Toyota have announced I believe I don't want to get this wrong, but they have announced that by 2025, 50% of all their vehicles will be either electric or hybrid. I think that was the announcement, something like that. Okay, don't quote me. So which means that all of their vehicle lines, they're saying, okay, well, how do we make them hybrid? How do we make them electric, et cetera, et cetera? This vehicle, as it stands now, is not really a hybrid type car, is it? I mean, yes, they have done some electrical, not Toyota, but other companies have done electrical versions of it, and it is feasible. It is. The technology is kind of there to make it electric, but it's certainly not going to be a prime contender, is it? So, for Toyota to enable them to achieve their goal of 50%, which I think it was 50%, would they drop the 79? Just stop making it. That's the danger. And the question is, well, if 2025 is the cutoff period, then, well, that's the cutoff period. Will they stop making it? So there was an announcement, and again, I heard this from different quarters and read some stuff, and there was an announcement they were going to stop building the troop carrier, and was it announced for 2020? And the NGOs and the UN and all of these organizations, that they said, you can't stop making this thing. Because what other vehicle in the world can carry 10 people, do 600,000 kilometers, and hardly ever be serviced? One vehicle in the entire world, and that is a Land Cruiser troop carrier. That's why it was made that way. It's why it was made. It was why, and it's why it still exists right now. Do you remember in 2018, Paul Marsh, myself, Gwyn, Jeremy, we came across this. We were filming. we were in not far from Tusadona in Zimbabwe, and we were filming a little thing at the side of the road. And this guy walked up to us, and he said, "Oh, hello." I greeted him. We've got a puncture. Do you have a puncture repair kit? And I said, "Where are you?" And he said, "Oh, just over the hill." I said, "Walk back. 15 minutes. We'll be finished here. We'll come and help you." So he walked back. We come 15 minutes later over the hill. There's just people, and one troop carrier. Two spare. Did you see the series? You've got to watch the series. Africa 2018 in Search of Wild Animals. One of my favorite series. I loved making that series. Anyway, we did find some wild animals. We also found these guys with the 2 punctures and their troop carrier. So Paul Marsh is out with his puncture repair kit, and I'm busy filming, and Jeremy's busy filming, and we're doing this little thing, and we're helping these people out. And we managed to sort out, one of the tires we managed to sort out properly. The other tire was in really bad condition, but we kind of repaired it, but it wasn't great. But anyway, we could get them back. And then the jack broke, snapped right there, bang, snapped. So Paul to the rescue. He had a spare jack in his cruiser and gave it to them as a gift. So we filmed it. It was a lovely scene. I turn around, and there's one person standing there, that woman with her little kid was walking down the road. Where's everybody? Where's everybody? Crikey. They are all in the troop carrier. All of them. That's what they were on their way. It was it was an NGO driver, NGO troop carrier, unmarked, taking a whole lot of students to learn, I think it was carpentry. It was sort of building work. It was a college. So he was transporting them to the college where they would learn building trades. One guy, I tell you, he was about 6'7". Enormous bloke. They all got into this troop carrier. That's what they're for. So that's why the troop carrier is so good. It's why the troop carrier is such a wonderful platform for us overlanders, because it's built for that. And we don't use it for that. We use it for what we want to use it for. So will they stop? If the NGOs and the UN and all of the NATO and various people that buy these vehicles in large numbers had their way, they would say to Toyota, "But please don't. You have to keep making the 70 series. You have to. We can't survive without it. There's nothing else. Nothing. Everything else is either far too big and you need special licenses to drive it, and far too expensive. So Will they be around in 2 years' time? Yeah, I think they will be around in 2 years' time. I definitely think they will be around in 2 years' time. But in Australia, they will probably have a V6 diesel because they're phasing this motor out, and they're bringing that. The story is they're bringing in a V6 diesel, which will probably be similar power to this and much better fuel economy. That will be an interesting development. Then I might buy another one. Okay, are we going to wind this up? Okay, we're going to take one more question, and then we're going to wrap it up.
From Ed from Patreon,
Yes.
Have you considered a 6x4 to better handle the weight in the back when building a camper?
So 6x4, you see, you're talking about lazy axle on the back. I did think about it, and I thought, well, yeah, I wouldn't put a lazy axle on the back. It would either be six-wheel drive or not. So I wouldn't want a lazy axle on the back. Lazy axle, for those of you who don't know, that's six-wheel drive, added load-carrying axle on the back, but it's not driven. It's just, So no, I didn't think of that, but I did think about 6x6, the experience I had with the multi-drive technology 6x6 in Oman in 2016. Was very, very impressed with that vehicle. But I also wanted to build something that was accessible. This stretch, which you can order from a Toyota dealership, you just have to contact me and find out where. It's all. $6,000. $6,000. That's all. That, to me, that is a really good value for considering the improved performance of a double cab. $6,000. All done. Then the GVM upgrade is extra. You don't have to put a GVM upgrade to move the wheel back. You don't have to. You don't have to correct the axle width either. I did all three. But you don't have to. So $6,000, what are you going to take this vehicle and you're going to spend $6,000 on it? If you're going to do a GVM upgrade, it's probably $6,000. Or I can get the handling sorted, one shot, $6,000, move the axle back. So I wanted to do something that was accessible to people, not stupid. That's why I didn't go the J-Max or the Marks 4x4 portal axles and things like that. Yeah, they're wonderful, but I didn't want to spend that kind of money. But it wasn't that. It was, I wanted to do something that was practical and not stupid money. Any compromise that you want to overcome is going to cost money, but then how much money? Is it worth overcoming or living with a compromise? The axle thing here, I think that for $6,000 is a remarkably good value considering what you're getting for it. If you want a double cab and you want it to carry a load well. So that's kind of where I was. All right, should we wrap it up? Thank you, everybody. How many viewers did we get?
At the moment, we're at 800.
Oh, good. Okay. Guys, thank you very, very much. Keep watching. Keep commenting. We're almost at 200,000 subs. Those guys that came and contributed today on Super Chat, I hope I managed to answer your questions well, sufficiently. And of course, Patreons, you make this all possible. Thank you. Thank you very much. Hopefully next time, maybe next time, we're talking about right now, trying to we're looking for a property to purchase. 2 moves across the world in 3 or whatever, 5 years, 6 years or something, has meant that we haven't owned this property, we rent this property, and we're looking to now buy, but I'm going to build a studio. I'm going to have a studio to be able to do proper live shows more often, because I can have something permanently set up that looks good. So that's my goal for the channel, is do more of these, and because I think you guys like them. I think you certainly enjoy them. And I hope that I've answered all of your questions. And thank you again for watching, supporting the channel. Really do appreciate it. The next video will probably be the interior layout of this, and then, which I still need to shoot a lot, and then the installation of the back. And what I'm going to do on the back there, as I've said earlier, is still in the air, but I've got 3 quite firm ideas, whichever way it goes. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you are too. Thank you for watching.